Before I ever held a weapon, before I learned how to read, I learned who to hate. They told us the universe was a dangerous place and that monsters were hiding among the stars. Monsters with no mercy, monsters with no soul. They called them the Sirens. I don't remember the first time I heard their name because it feels like I've always known it. In schoolrooms, in training halls, on every screen and broadcast, the message was the same. The Sirens are the reason the galaxy burns. They showed us images of destroyed human colonies, floating debris, silent planets, crying survivors pulled from the wreckage, and every time the same conclusion followed. This is their fault. No one ever asked us to question it. No one ever encouraged doubt. Hatred wasn't an emotion, it was a lesson. As children, we played war before we understood peace. Our toys were soldiers and starships. Our stories always ended the same way, humans standing victorious over alien ruins. If someone asked why the war started, the answer was simple: because they attacked us. That was enough. As we grew older, the lessons became harsher. History classes were replaced by combat simulations. Ethics were replaced by obedience. We were taught that empathy was a weakness and curiosity was dangerous. The Sirens weren't described as a species, they were described as a disease, something to be erased for the good of the galaxy. And I believed it completely. Because when hatred is taught before reason, it feels like truth. When everyone around you repeats the same story, you stop wondering if there's another side. By the time I was old enough to enlist, the hatred was no longer loud or emotional. It was calm, cold, normal. Just like learning how to aim, just like learning how to follow orders, just like learning how to pull the trigger without hesitation. I didn't hate the Sirens because I chose to. I hated them because I was raised to believe that without that hatred, humanity wouldn't survive. And at the time, that belief felt unquestionable. They said some people were born for war, that their bodies adapted faster, that their minds didn't hesitate when others froze. They said I was one of them. From the moment my training began, the differences were impossible to ignore. While others struggled with exhaustion, I kept going. While they hesitated in simulations, I reacted on instinct. Faster reflexes, sharper focus, pain that faded quicker than it should have. Instructors watched me differently, not with pride, but with interest, like engineers observing a machine that exceeded expectations. They pushed me harder than the rest. Longer drills, harsher environments, tests designed to break something inside me, but nothing ever broke. Instead, I adapted. By the time I was officially enlisted, I was already leading missions meant for veterans twice my age. My success rate was perfect, my record clean, every objective completed, every order followed. They started calling me the miracle of the war. I didn't feel like a miracle. I felt empty. Victory never brought satisfaction. Killing never felt personal. The Sirens weren't faces to me, just targets shaped like the enemy I had been taught to hate. I didn't question it. I didn't need to. Because doubt had no place in my mind. At least, that's what I believed. Late at night, when the barracks were quiet, I sometimes wondered why fear never reached me the way it did others, why my heart stayed steady in situations that made seasoned soldiers panic, why pain felt distant, like something happening to someone else. I told myself it was discipline, training, experience. That's what everyone else believed too. Command rewarded results, not questions. Promotions came fast, medals followed. My name spread across the fleet as something between a symbol and a weapon. Where morale was low, they sent me. Where defeat was certain, they sent me. And every time, I delivered.
I didn't see it then, but I was never just fighting the war. I was being measured, calibrated, prepared for something far larger than any battlefield I had stepped onto. And while I believed I was becoming the perfect soldier, someone else was quietly confirming that their creation was working exactly as intended.
By the time I realized the war had no beginning, it already had no end. No one could tell me exactly when it started. Dates blurred together, rewritten so many times they lost meaning. Every official record pointed to a different spark, a different first attack, a different justification. What never changed was the conclusion. The war was necessary. Entire generations had been born into it. Children who had never seen an untouched sky. Adults who had never lived a single day without alarms, reports, and casualty numbers scrolling across screens. The galaxy we were promised, full of exploration and discovery, had become a graveyard, drifting in silence. I flew past ruined planets more times than I could count, worlds stripped to stone, atmospheres burned away, orbits filled with the remains of cities that once believed they were safe, and every time, Command told us the same thing. This is the price of survival. We weren't fighting for victory anymore. We were fighting for continuation. Each battle blurred into the next. Win or lose, nothing truly changed. A system taken today would be lost tomorrow. An enemy fleet destroyed would be replaced within months. The fronts moved, but the war stayed exactly where it was. Endless. I started noticing something strange among the soldiers. Not fear, that had burned out long ago. Not anger either. It was something quieter. Acceptance. People stopped asking when it would end. They stopped imagining a future after the war. Life became missions, rest cycles, and brief moments of silence between deployments. Hope felt childish. Peace felt unrealistic. And somehow, that scared me more than the enemy ever did. I was sent to the worst fronts, the places Command described as critical, systems on the verge of collapse, battles designed to send a message rather than win territory. We destroyed, not because it was strategic, but because it was symbolic. Each explosion was a warning, each ruined world a reminder. This is what happens when you stand in our way. And still, the Xyrans kept fighting. That was the part no one talked about. They didn't retreat like a species on the brink of extinction. They didn't beg for peace. They didn't collapse under losses that would have broken any known civilization. They resisted, like they were trying to stop something. I ignored that thought every time it surfaced, because if the war wasn't about survival, if it wasn't about defense, then we weren't soldiers. We were something else entirely. And deep down, beneath the orders and the medals and the endless battles, a question began to form, quiet, dangerous, and impossible to silence. What if this war wasn't endless by accident? What if it was being kept alive on purpose? The order came without ceremony. No speeches, no warnings, just coordinates and a single line of text. Xyran Research Facility, uninhabited system, total elimination authorized. On paper, it was a simple mission, too simple for the state of the war, the kind of assignment that felt like an afterthought, or a secret. As we exited hyperspace, the first thing I noticed was what wasn't there. No patrols, no defensive satellites, no warning shots, just a dead planet drifting beneath us, its surface cracked and colorless, like something long forgotten by the galaxy. That should have worried us. Instead, Command labeled it good fortune. We descended anyway. The landing zone was silent, unnaturally so. No energy signatures, no signs of recent evacuation. The structures were intact, untouched by bombardment, as if the Xyrans had simply stood up and walked away.
My squad moved carefully, weapons raised, waiting for the inevitable ambush. It never came. Each step deeper into the facility made the silence heavier. No alarms, no movement, even our own breathing sounded too loud in our helmets. That's when I felt it. A sudden pressure behind my eyes, a sharp pulse in my skull. I slowed down, then stopped completely. The place felt familiar. Not like something I recognized, but like something that recognized me. My heart rate stayed calm, but something else stirred beneath it, an instinct I had never trained, a pull I couldn't explain. I told my squad to hold position. They protested. I ignored them. Without realizing it, I started walking alone. The corridors seemed to guide me. Every turn felt obvious, as if I already knew where I was going. Symbols lined the walls, Zyran markings that should have meant nothing to me. And yet, they did. The pain in my head intensified with every step, but it wasn't pain alone. It was memory without images, emotion without words, recognition. I reached a massive sealed door at the heart of the facility, ancient, reinforced, still powered. The moment I placed my hand against it, the door opened. Not by command, not by force, by permission. That was the moment I understood something was terribly wrong. This wasn't an abandoned lab. It was waiting, and whatever was inside had been waiting for me.
The room beyond the door was vast and dim, lit by a soft, pulsing glow that seemed to breathe. Strange machinery curved along the walls, organic and artificial at the same time, as if the technology had grown instead of being built. At the center of the chamber stood a containment structure, tall, translucent, filled with a faint, shimmering fluid. Something moved inside. I took a step forward, and the pressure in my head intensified. My vision blurred for a moment, not from fear, but from something deeper, a sensation I couldn't name. Belonging. The shape within the chamber became clearer, a Zyran, larger than any I had seen in combat. Its body bore marks of age and injury, cables and conduits connected directly to its form, keeping it alive. My instincts screamed at me to raise my weapon. I didn't. Instead, the creature's eyes opened, slow, deliberate, and locked onto mine. The world went silent. Not the absence of sound, but the absence of distance. A voice filled my mind, calm and unmistakably aware. You found your way home. My breath caught in my chest. That was impossible. Zyrans didn't speak like this. They didn't reach into human thoughts. Every report, every briefing, every lesson said the same thing. This couldn't be happening. I forced my fingers to tighten around my weapon. I am wrong, I said aloud, my voice echoing uselessly in the chamber. I don't belong here. The creature studied me, not with hostility, but with recognition. You were always meant to return. This place remembers you. So do we. Images flickered at the edges of my mind, fragments without context, cold light, gentle hands that weren't human, symbols glowing above me while I slept. My knees weakened. I had never been inside a Zyran facility before. At least, that's what I had believed. The machinery around us responded to my presence. Systems activated, lights shifted, as if my arrival had completed a long, unfinished equation. This place didn't see me as an enemy. It saw me as a missing piece, and for the first time since the war began, a terrifying thought took shape, clear and undeniable. I wasn't trespassing in this facility. I was being recognized, and whatever the Zyrans were about to tell me was something my entire life had been carefully designed to hide.
The Zyran didn't move, yet its presence filled the chamber completely. The voice in my mind wasn't loud or commanding. It was patient, certain. You deserve to know what you are. The machinery around us came alive. Holographic streams unfolded in the air, wrapping the room in light and motion. At first, I didn't understand what I was seeing. Star systems, timelines, genetic sequences spiraling endlessly. Then, I saw Earth. Not the Earth I knew, scarred by war and industry, but an earlier version, younger, hopeful, humans reaching into space for the first time. "We have watched your species for a very long time," the voice said. "Long enough to recognize patterns." The images shifted, human fleets expanding, colonies multiplying, borders pushed farther and farther outward. Then came the wars, not just with the Zyrans, but with everyone. "Every time humanity reaches this point," the Zyran continued, "the result is the same." The galaxy burned. I clenched my fists. "You're lying," I said. "You started this war." A pause. "No," the voice replied gently. "We tried to stop it." The holograms changed again. This time I saw children, human children, infants inside medical chambers far more advanced than anything I had seen on Earth. And then I saw myself, younger than any memory I possessed, asleep, surrounded by Zyran scientists, their movements careful, reverent. My chest tightened. "You kidnapped us," I whispered. "No," the voice corrected. "You were given." The truth settled like a blade sliding between my ribs. Secret agreements, hidden programs, human leaders terrified of extinction, willing to sacrifice a few to save the many. The Zyrans hadn't stolen children. They had been handed them. "You were altered, strengthened, stabilized, designed to survive what others could not." I finally understood. My reflexes, my resistance, my absence of fear, none of it was chance. "You turned me into a weapon," I said, anger rising at last. "No," the voice answered. "We turned you into a mirror." The war wasn't just a conflict, it was an experiment, and I wasn't fighting to win. I was fighting to prove whether humanity, when given ultimate power through me, would choose domination or something else entirely. The truth settled slowly, like gravity returning after a long fall. The chamber felt heavier, the air thicker. Every victory I had ever claimed replayed in my mind, now stripped of its meaning. "This war," I said, my voice unsteady, "you're using it to judge us." "Yes," the Zyran replied without hesitation, "as we have done before." The holograms shifted again. I saw civilizations older than humanity rise and fall, species that expanded too quickly, empires that believed strength alone guaranteed survival. Every time, the pattern repeated. Unchecked power, total dominance, extinction, not just of others, but of themselves. The galaxy does not survive conquerors forever, only those who learn restraint. The war with humanity wasn't meant to be won quickly, it wasn't meant to end cleanly. It was designed to apply pressure, to see what choices humans would make when pushed to the edge of control. And I was the catalyst. "You were placed where you would matter most," the Zyran replied without hesitation. "A single human capable of tipping the balance." I saw it then. Every impossible mission, every critical front, every moment command had chosen me instead of thousands of others. They weren't just testing humanity, they were testing me. "If I lead humanity to victory," I said slowly, "you confirm that we'll never change." "Correct." "And if we lose," a pause, not hesitation, respect, "then you prove that humanity can choose something other than supremacy." My hands trembled. Human victory meant the subjugation or extinction of countless species, a galaxy reshaped in our image,
safe for us and lethal for everyone else. Human defeat meant something worse in the eyes of my people, the end of dominance, the end of certainty, the end of being the apex force among the stars. And suddenly, I understood the cruel elegance of it all. The war wasn't about territory, it wasn't about revenge, it was a question. When given the power to rule everything, would humanity choose to rule or choose to stop?
The alarms began to echo through the facility, distant but growing louder. My squad was approaching. The moment was collapsing in on itself, seconds tearing away my chance to think. The Exaran looked at me, not as an enemy, not as an experiment, but as an equal. "The choice cannot be delayed any longer," the voice said inside my mind. "It was never meant to be easy." I felt something tighten in my chest. All my life, choices had been simple. Follow orders, complete objectives, eliminate threats. This was different. If I returned to the fleet and continued fighting as I always had, humanity would win, I had no doubt. With me at the front, the war would end in our favor. The galaxy would fall silent, under human rule, and billions would suffer for it. If I sabotaged the war, subtly, slowly, humanity would weaken, not destroyed, but forced to stop, forced to face its limits, forced to coexist. But that meant betrayal. I would become a traitor to my own species. Every human who died after that moment would die because of my hesitation, because of my choice. "You made me this way," I said, anger and pain colliding inside me. "You shaped me to decide who deserves to survive." "No," the Exaran answered softly. "We shaped you so the decision would finally be made by a human." That was the cruelest part. The galaxy wasn't being judged by aliens. It was being judged by me. I thought of the children back on Earth, growing up with the same hatred I had been taught. I thought of soldiers who trusted me, followed me, believed in me. And I thought of countless species I had never met, who would never even know why they were erased. My squad's voices crackled through my comms, calling my name. Time was gone. I lowered my weapon. "I won't give humanity victory," I said quietly, "but I won't let us be erased either." The Exaran's eyes dimmed slightly, a gesture I somehow understood as acceptance. "Then the future remains possible." In that moment, I stopped being a soldier. I became something far more dangerous. I became the one who would decide how this war truly ends.
When I returned to the fleet, no one suspected a thing. The report was clean, the facility destroyed, no survivors. Command praised the efficiency of the mission. My squad spoke of my composure under pressure. Another success added to my record, another reason for them to trust me without question. They never noticed what I left out. They never noticed what I took with me. From that moment on, I fought a different war, one no one could see. I still led missions, still stood at the front lines, still wore the same insignia, the same uniform, the same expression of unwavering loyalty. To everyone watching, I was the same perfect soldier I had always been. But my decisions changed. Targets were delayed, coordinates arrived too late, critical strikes missed by margins so small they were blamed on chance. I redirected fleets away from civilian worlds. I chose strategies that minimized annihilation instead of ensuring dominance. Losses still happened, war doesn't forgive completely, but extermination stopped being the goal. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the war shifted. Human victories became costly, Zyran defeats became survivable. Other species, long crushed between the two powers, began to resist again. Whispers of alliances spread through systems once considered lost. Command noticed something was wrong.
They called it instability, they called it bad luck, they called it a phase. They never called it betrayal. Because betrayal is loud, it's dramatic, it leaves evidence. What I was doing was quieter. I became a symbol, a hero humanity rallied behind, while I carefully dismantled the very certainty that kept the war alive. Every time a soldier saluted me, guilt burned in my chest. Every time civilians cheered my name, the weight grew heavier. I was saving lives I would never meet by lying to those who trusted me most. And yet, the galaxy began to breathe again. For the first time in decades, the war no longer felt inevitable. It felt uncertain. And uncertainty, I realized, was the first step away from endless destruction. I wasn't fighting to make humanity lose. I was fighting to make humanity stop, even if that meant history would remember me as a hero or a monster, depending on who finally got to tell the story.
The message arrived when the galaxy was holding its breath. On the eve of what Command called the final offensive, when fleets were aligned and weapons primed to decide everything in a single catastrophic moment, my console lit up with a signal that didn't belong to any known network. No human encryption, no origin point, no signature, just words. You have passed the test. I felt no relief reading them, no sense of victory, only the weight of confirmation settling deep in my chest. The Zyrans had never needed to intervene again. They had simply watched every delayed strike, every spared colony, every time power was within reach, and I chose restraint instead. The experiment wasn't about tactics or outcomes. It was about choice. Humanity stood on the edge of absolute dominance, not through numbers or technology alone, but through me. And yet, the war had begun to fracture. Orders were questioned. Allies hesitated. Systems refused to be sacrificed for abstract ideals of supremacy. The final battle never came, not because of a ceasefire, not because of peace talks, but because certainty died first. Command couldn't explain it. The enemy no longer behaved like something that needed to be erased, and we no longer behaved like something destined to rule everything. The war didn't end with an explosion. It faded, slowly, unevenly, painfully. Some systems fell silent, others rebuilt. Old enemies became cautious neighbors. No one declared peace because no one trusted it yet, but the galaxy learned to breathe again, carefully, as if afraid the war might wake up. As for me, I was erased. Official records say I died during a classified deep space operation, a hero lost beyond known space, a convenient ending, a name history could reshape depending on who needed inspiration or blame. But I'm still alive. I stay away from borders, away from flags, away from causes that demand certainty. I watch emerging worlds from a distance and listen to old ones argue about what the war meant. Some say humanity was robbed of its destiny. Others say the galaxy was saved from extinction. Both are true. I was created by the enemy, altered to be more than human, raised inside a lie meant to turn me into the perfect weapon. But in the end, the most important thing I proved wasn't strength. It was restraint. I don't know what humanity will choose in the future. I don't know if the next war will end the same way or burn everything we spared this time. But the galaxy now knows something it never knew before. When given the power to dominate all life, a human once chose not to. And that choice, fragile, imperfect, and terrifying, changed the fate of the stars forever.